seen that, but I know enough in terms of what occurred during Signalgate, as we call it, to know and to have follow-up questions at hearings with Secretary Hegseth himself in the Armed Services Committee, where the accountability question comes into bear. They admitted that things were as they were reported, and at this time, I'm sorry, the background noise. I don't know if you can hear that, but
we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. Well, thank you. So what's happening with that is, at the time, there was enough information to go forward and to make sure that our classified information, particularly as it affected our troops at the time of a mission, giving a sort of a play-by-play at the time of what would occur, the endangerment of our troops in that instance would have been a violation to any other military person, but the Secretary refused to be accountable for that at a committee hearing earlier this year. That's unacceptable, because if there's that kind of accountability across the whole hierarchy of the military, it certainly has the same level as the Secretariat level. So to me, at that time, that was a serious breach. I'll be very curious to see and read the rest of the report, but there's enough information that was clearly out there then that made it clear exactly what happened, and no denial about the facts.
And I understand, Congressman, that you haven't seen the report, so I'll caveat that, of course, but does this, coupled, of course, with the controversy over the double tap alleged boat strike, alleged drug boat strike, does this raise serious questions as to whether Secretary Hegseth committed impeachable offenses? I mean, are both of these cases impeachable offenses in your view?
Well, there was enough information with the first one in the spring that I called for him to step down or to be removed. The issue of the double tap is one that, again, there's enough information that's clear-cut now. Many people on both sides of the aisle here in the U.S. Said that if the facts were as reported, then he shouldn't have that position, and it's serious. Some actually saying that is a violation, that is a criminal war violation. So that what's happened since then, just a couple of days ago, the White House effectively said those were the facts. That they accepted the facts as reported as to what occurred. And subsequent to that, Secretary Hegseth said afterwards, just at the White House yesterday, I believe, that he was agreeable to that policy. He didn't see anything wrong with it. He thinks it should be continued, and he endorsed what the admiral that was commander did in that regard. Now, there will be hearings. There'll be hearings in the House and the Senate over this, but they take time. What we know now is that it occurred as reported, that he now, still as Secretary of Defense, is saying that that kind of activity is appropriate, and to me, that's unacceptable. To many of my colleagues, it's unacceptable. And we don't have to wait. There's an urgency to act now. I think he should be removed if he does not resign voluntarily.
And let's stay with Venezuela for just a moment, Congressman. What is your understanding? Let me put the same question I put to my colleague just at the top of the show. What is your understanding regarding the strategy here by the Trump administration? Because, we've heard that there will be strikes very soon. If so, give an idea of when, because we have about 15,000 U.S. troops stationed close to Venezuela. We've got a huge show of military force. And just in the last 24 hours, we've had President Trump raising the possibility that perhaps other countries, such as Colombia, could be entangled in all of this. How do you see this turning out? Because has President Trump kind of squared himself in a box a bit?
Well, first of all, you shouldn't undertake a military mission of that magnitude and be ambiguous. What the administration is saying, it's related to narco-drug trafficking, and it's related to the fentanyl crisis in the United States, which kills hundreds of thousands of Americans a year. But the facts are counter that. The facts are very clear. The drugs that are coming from Venezuela, it's not fentanyl, it's cocaine. And as a matter of fact, for the people listening in Europe, most of it's heading to Europe because the price of a kilogram of cocaine in the U.S. is like $28,000. In Europe, it's upwards of $80,000. The profit margin is to Europe. these are not destined for the United States, and they're certainly not fentanyl that comes through ingredients from China and is compounded and manufactured in Mexico. So the premise of this is wrong. And before I was in Congress, I was a prosecutor dealing with drug issues. I had oversaw my own drug units dealing with not just state but federal government officials. This should be done in a civilian manner. It's a criminal act, not a military act. And they have crossed the line, taking a military tack towards dealing with what's clearly a civilian criminal issue.
Yeah, absolutely right. Only 5 to 8% of cocaine actually reaches U.S. shores. Congressman, really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. Thank you very much, Congressman Bill.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, Colombia is warning the U.S. not to awaken the jaguar, their words, over threats leveled by President Trump. While addressing tensions with Venezuela on Tuesday, Mr. Trump said military efforts targeting drug traffickers could expand further into South America. Have a listen to this.
I hear Colombia, the country of Colombia, is making cocaine. They have cocaine manufacturing plants, okay? And then they sell us their cocaine. We appreciate that very much. But yeah, anybody that's doing that and selling it into our country is subject to attack.
Well, Colombia's President Gustavo Petro, you see there, issuing a swift and stern response. He invited Mr. Trump to visit his country, whilst warning attacking our sovereignty is declaring war. Do not damage 2 centuries of diplomatic relations. He added if any country has helped stop thousands of tons of cocaine from reaching Americans, it's Colombia. Well, I traveled to Bogota, to Colombia, for an exclusive interview with President Petro to see just how the country is addressing the cocaine trade firsthand. In Colombia's decades-long struggle with narco-trafficking, concealment has become an art born of desperation, driving traffickers from low-level couriers to organized networks to employ methods that range from the absurd to the darkly ingenious. This is 1.2 tons of coffee destined for the United Kingdom. At least it looks like coffee, right? You've got the very official packaging, product of Colombia, their date it expires. If I look closer, actually looks and smells like coffee, but under a microscope, there's cocaine inside. Lieutenant Colonel Hector Toro says his unit tested this load after it was flagged by an artificial intelligence system they use to identify suspicious shipments, passengers, and even mail. It's one of the many examples of how drug seizures here at Bogota's El Dorado airport have become bolder and more frequent, forcing authorities to adapt as coca production in Colombia continues to rise. As you can see, that one, you can see the white inside. That increase, the reason why the US says it has dropped Colombia as a partner in the fight against drug trafficking, ending a partnership that had been in place for decades.
Señor Presidente, Isa Suárez.
It's President Gustavo Petro, with whom I sat down for an exclusive interview, is also feeling the heat, with US hitting him with sanctions and accusing him of being an illegal drug dealer.
What President Trump says is the opposite of reality.
Why doesn't he listen? Why don't you think he doesn't hear you? ¿Por qué cree que no lo escucha?
Out of arrogance, because he thinks I am a thug, a subversive, a terrorist, things like that.
The tit-for-tat between both presidents has only escalated as President Trump goes after alleged drug boats off the coast of Venezuela and Colombia as well. Actions that Petro has deemed illegal under international law. And as far as drugs are concerned, the Colombian president says he is doing his part.
The government that has seized the most cocaine in history globally is the government of Colombia under my administration.
Major General Edgar Falla Vargas, who oversees Colombia's aerospatial forces in the southern hemisphere, tells me cooperation, collaboration and intelligence sharing with US and 41 other countries have been key to their success in nearly eradicating drugs by air inside Colombian airspace.
In 2003, there were 639 aircraft leaving Colombia bound for the United States. This year, we can say we have had 3 involved in some type of illegal movement.
Under pressure, traffickers have looked to the sea to make their gains. Most shipments leaving Colombia on speedboats or concealed inside shipping containers. But the main route? Not the Caribbean, as President Trump's campaign against Venezuela seems to suggest.
Y es el corredor Caribe, that Caribbean corridor?
Yes.
Is that the biggest? Is that the one you see the most action?
Desde mi perspectiva,
From my perspective, we have an increase in the Pacific corridor. However, activity in the Caribbean is not zero.
Despite tensions between both leaders and the threats of stopping intelligence sharing by President Petro, this is an area where collaboration is non-negotiable. Major General Vargas, who has repeatedly exalted the importance of intelligence sharing during our conversation and prefers not to wade into the world of politics, tells me very simply that when it comes to cooperation,
There really isn't a problem.
as drug production climbs and political rhetoric heats up, it seems both countries are bound by necessity, knowing all too well, perhaps, if cooperation were to falter, only one group stands to gain: the drug traffickers.
The US Defense Secretary faces increasing scrutiny on multiple fronts now. This is what we know. Sources tell CNN that a classified report has found US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth endangered US troops by sharing sensitive war plans via the messaging app Signal. Hegseth's use of the app during operations against the Houthis in Yemen first surfaced in March. These developments come at a bad time for Hegseth as lawmakers are demanding answers over the double strike of a suspected drug boat in the Caribbean. First is Zachary Cohen, who has the latest exclusive reporting about Pete Hegseth's use of Signal.
Yeah, Max, a really stunning conclusion that we're learning about here from the Inspector General of the Pentagon. This report is still classified, but sources telling me and our colleague Jake Tapper that the Inspector General did determine that Pete Hegseth risked compromising sensitive military information that would have potentially endangered U.S. service members and potentially jeopardized the mission objectives during these ongoing military operations targeting the Houthis in Yemen. Now, this incident dates back to March, and when these messages first were revealed by Atlantic reporter Jeffrey Goldberg, who was accidentally added to the messaging app group chat on Signal that Hegseth and other Trump officials were using to communicate about this operation. These were really specific messages, so much so that one read from Hegseth read, this is definitely when the first bombs will drop, and it included a timestamp on it. So clearly the Inspector General viewing that and other details in these messages as very sensitive, and ones that could have, if fallen into the wrong hands, could have endangered the American troops who were carrying out those airstrikes. And so this is not happening in a vacuum either. Hegseth really grappling with sort of dueling controversies as he's facing immense amount of pressure and questions over the military strikes in the Caribbean, and specifically that double strike that we've been talking about for the last few days, where it appears the military did intentionally target survivors of one of those operations. So this is something that lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, both these controversies, are something that lawmakers are frustrated with, and they want answers from Hegseth. Now, the Inspector General, also conducting its month-long investigation, also pushed Hegseth for answers. We're told that Hegseth refused to sit down in person for an interview as part of that probe, and would only submit his answers in writing. It just sort of paints an adversarial kind of response that Hegseth had to that investigation, and one that he has sort of demonstrated similar tendencies to when asked for information by Capitol Hill. Lawmakers have been frustrated for months about Hegseth's unwillingness to share really anything with them, despite numerous requests for him to do so. So again, pressure mounting on Hegseth here. It remains to be seen what the repercussions of this IG report, as well as the ongoing questions about the Caribbean strikes, will be. But we do know that some within the Trump administration have been increasingly pushing for Hegseth to be removed and replaced with someone else.
OK, Zach, thank you so much. And as Zach mentioned, Hegseth is also facing that mounting pressure from Congress on those boat strikes in the Caribbean. Lawmakers from both parties will meet on Thursday with US Navy Admiral Mitch Bradley. The Trump administration says Bradley gave the order for a follow-up strike on a suspected drug boat last September, with the Defense Secretary claiming he didn't learn about it until later. That's led to more questions from some on Capitol Hill.
Even in war, you don't blow up somebody who has been incapacitated. People floundering around in the water, clinging to wreckage, have been incapacitated, and under no theory of war are they an opportunity to be killed. So I think it was wrong on all fronts, but I don't like the Secretary of Defense blaming on a military commander. These commands came from him, and I think the buck stops with him.
Sunez Alexides joins us from Washington. What do we know about the Admiral? Because it's going to be fascinating to see if there's anything in his story that clashes with Hegseth's story.
Yeah, Max, senators have said that they want to get direct answers from Admiral Frank Mitch Bradley, the man who the White House has said ordered that second strike on an alleged drug vessel that had potential survivors on it. Tomorrow, at some point in the morning, we anticipate that he will be meeting with members of both the Senate Armed Services and the House Armed Services Committee. He is also set to meet with the chair and ranking and vice chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee tomorrow. And these lawmakers have said that they want to hear directly from him. Many have described him as a man of strong character, and they have faith in his record. And so they believe that Admiral Bradley will tell them the truth. It comes, as we have heard, both the White House and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth really shift the blame to Admiral Bradley, saying that he was the one who directly ordered the strike. Yesterday, in a cabinet meeting, Hegseth said that he had watched the first strike on those alleged drug vessels back on September 2nd, and that he did not see himself any survivors clinging to that boat. But then he left, according to the defense secretary, before any further strikes happened. So lawmakers are going to want to get some more answers about how exactly this all played out. We have also heard from senators who believe that they want to see the videos and audios of these incidents so they can see the proof for themselves of how this strike was carried out, how it was ordered, and how it played out, and whether there were survivors clinging to that ship. Now, there are some senators who have expressed concerns about whether there will be a full investigation into this. I spoke with Senator Richard Blumenthal earlier today, and he had said that he wants to subpoena all this information relating to these strikes because he's concerned that these documents and records may not be preserved. He said that this is essential to any investigation that plays out up here on Capitol Hill. We've also heard from some Republicans who, like Senator Rand Paul, who have expressed concerns about the actions that they have seen. Rand Paul has perhaps been the most vocal Republican, but then you also have Senator Roger Wicker, who chairs the Senate Armed Services Committee, who has said he wants to have this oversight and investigation and have more input. Now, there are other Republicans who have said that the Trump administration is well within their legal authority to conduct these strikes. But what lawmakers are really hoping to do in the next 24 hours is hear from Admiral Bradley themselves, hear from the man who is said to have ordered this second double tap strike to try to see how exactly this all played out and whether there are any discrepancies in his story with what Secretary Hegseth of the White House has been saying in recent days.
Tom, forgive me. We do have to go to the president who's speaking in the Oval Office.
It's a terrible thing, but I thought they had a very good meeting yesterday with President Putin. We'll see what happens. It's, when I was in this office and I talked about no cards, I said, you have no cards. That was the time to settle. I thought that would have been a much better time to settle. But they, in their wisdom, decided not to do that. They have a lot of things against them right now. But you have President Putin had a very good meeting yesterday with Jared Kushner and with Steve Witkoff. What comes out of that meeting, I can't tell you, because it does take two to tango. Ukraine, I think we have something pretty well worked out with them. They're very satisfied, considering. But the sad part is, if I were president, no war would have ever happened. They would have had 100% of their territory. Nothing would have happened. It's a very sad situation. So think of this. Last month, 27,000 soldiers. 27. That's like you take a stadium, a football stadium, not an arena, and you cut it in half. 27,000 people died. Young, mostly young soldiers, died last month, in 1 month. And that's the only reason I'm involved. We're not spending any money in the war. We're selling to NATO. We're not being ripped off like we were under Biden. Biden was handing everybody everything we had, giving them all the missiles, everything they wanted, free, no charge. He had no idea what he was doing. They're paying top dollar, full price for everything. Goes to NATO, and then NATO distributes it. NATO pays us. So it's not money. We would all, I think I can speak for everyone behind here. The politicians I know and the auto manufacturers are good people. They don't want to see 27,000 people die for no reason whatsoever. And that's the only reason I'm trying to help. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, switching to Venezuela for a second. Have you checked back with President Maduro? I mean, is your pressure campaign working? And do you think how's he responding to your demand that he leave the country?
It's not pressure campaign. It's much beyond that, I think. But I spoke to him briefly, just told him a couple of things. We'll see what happens with that. Venezuela sends us drugs, but Venezuela sends us people that they shouldn't be sending. They emptied their prisons into our country. They sent us killers, murderers. They sent us drug dealers at the highest level. They sent us gang members. They sent us people from their mental institutions. They emptied their mental institutions into our country. And so did other countries, because we had stupid people running this country, really stupid people. And I think probably you had some stupid ones and you had some smart ones, but they were bad people too. Because not all of them were stupid. You can't cheat on elections like they did and be stupid. Okay?
Did you talk to him a second time or just that one time?
What's that?
To Maduro. Did you speak to him again?
No, I didn't.
Mr. President, if you do find... When you spoke with Mr. Witkoff and with Mr. Kushner... Last night, did they give you the sense that President Putin still wants to end the war, wants to make peace?
He would like to end the war. That was their impression. Now, whether or not,
do you believe him?
That was their impression. Their impression was that he would like to see the war ended. I think he'd like to get back to dealing a more normal life. I think he'd like to be trading with the United States of America, frankly, instead of, losing thousands of soldiers a week. But their impression was very strongly that he'd like to make a deal. We'll see what happens.
Mr. President, if the boat strikes, if it is found that survivors were actually killed while clinging on to that boat, should Secretary Hegseth, Admiral Bradley, or others be punished?
I think you're going to find that this is war, that these people were killing our people by the millions, actually, if you look over a few years. I think last year we lost close to 300,000 people were killed. That's not mentioning all the families. Have you seen what happens with the families of not only the people killed, the people that are trying to get their son or their daughter off of this poison that they've been fed? I think you're going to find that there's a very receptive ear to doing exactly what they're doing, taking out those boats. And very soon we're going to start doing it on land too, because we know every route, we know every house, we know where they manufacture this crap, we know where they put it all together. And I think you're going to see it very soon on land also. Yeah, please.
So to be clear, you support the decision to kill survivors after the
No, I support the decision to knock out the boats. And whoever is piloting those boats, most of them are gone. But whoever are piloting those boats, they're guilty of trying to kill people in our country. Yeah, please.
The House Judiciary Committee has subpoenaed Jack Smith to ask about his investigation of you. I wondered, for a deposition, I wondered if you'd prefer to see that as a hearing so that the American public can see the questions and the responses more easily.
I'd rather see it probably at a hearing. Look, Jack Smith is a thug. He's a failed prosecutor. He's a bad man. He's an evil man. He hurt a lot of people. Forget about me. I do this stuff, but I got indicted many times by a guy that they were dismissed. He's a bad guy. He's a sick man. There's something wrong with him, actually. I think Jack Smith is a sick man. There's something really wrong with him. I'd rather see him testify publicly because there's no way he can answer the questions. But Biden knew this was going along. Kamala knew it was going along. And there's a lot of things happening right now that they don't like. One of the things is the auto pen. Everything he signed, almost, with the exception of the pardon of his wonderful son, Hunter, just about everything he signed was not signed by him. He had no knowledge of it. He didn't know what it was. People sitting around the beautiful Resolute desk knew exactly what it was. And those people are guilty, in my opinion, of a major crime. Everything that was signed by that auto pen The man operating the autopan, and I'm sure there are more than one, because I think some of the people can operate it themselves, some of the high-level people operate it themselves. They would just go in and sign his name with an autopan onto very important documents, not only pardons, but policy, maybe CAFE standards, okay, as an example. Who signed CAFE? If you ask Biden what's a CAFE standard, he would have absolutely no idea. He'd say, where is the CAFE located? The guy didn't know anything. Look, that just shows you what a rigged election can be, but you understand what I'm saying. Thank you.
You've had conversations with...
I did, with Jensen.
Right, so...
Smart man.
In your conversations with him, have you kind of given a sense of where you are with export controls and the types of chips that NVIDIA can give to China?
Sure, he knows very well. He's done an amazing job. NVIDIA, very good. Yeah.
Mr. President, when do you expect for phase 2 of the Gaza peace plan to be implemented? And
well, it's going along well. You know, they had a problem today, I understand, with a bomb that went off and hurt some people pretty badly, probably killed some people. They're telling me it just happened. But it's going on very... We have peace in the Middle East. People don't realize it. We have tremendous support. 59 countries. There's tremendous support. But phase 2 is moving along, yeah. It's going to happen pretty soon.
Mr. President, did you speak with House Republican leadership about your decision to pardon Congressman Henry Cuellar? And are you concerned that you made a vulnerable Democrat perhaps less vulnerable with that decision?
It didn't matter.